The sun was low and soft when Officer James was winding down what he thought would be an ordinary, quiet shift. The patrol car hummed under him, a small, familiar comfort, until a sudden, terrified sound cut through the evening, the breathless cry of a child. A little girl, no more than 6, came running up to the cruiser, tears streaking her cheeks, fingers trembling as she tried to speak. Her dress was wrinkled, her hair a mess from running, and when she finally managed to get the words out, she begged him to follow her home. There was something in her eyes, equal parts fear and hope, that left no room for doubt. This was a child asking for help. James hopped out, knelt so he was at her level, and told her he was there. She grabbed his hand and hurried ahead, glancing back now, and then to make sure he was following. They walked through a quiet neighborhood of older houses, the kind where time had left its mark, peeling paint, overgrown yards, a hush that felt heavier the closer they got. When they reached the house, James felt a knot in his chest. The front door was slightly open. Inside, the living room looked neglected. Empty food containers, scattered papers, the air heavy with a stale, tired smell. The girl led him to a small bedroom, where a young woman lay motionless on the bed. James checked for a pulse and found the woman breathing, but barely. He called for an ambulance and kept talking to the little girl to keep her steady. The girl, Emily, whispered between sobs that her mother hadn't woken up for days, that she'd tried to make soup but couldn't even reach the stove, and that she'd finally run out to find someone who could help. Paramedics arrived quickly and took the woman to the hospital. Emily clung to James's uniform, frightened and small, and he promised he wouldn't leave her. He rode with her to the emergency room and sat by her while the hours crawled past in the cold, clinical light of the hospital. Eventually, a doctor emerged with a diagnosis: severe exhaustion, dehydration and pneumonia, conditions made worse by overtime, skipped meals, and months of putting someone else's needs before her own. As James thought back to that cramped house and the pile of unpaid bills on the table, it became clear why no one had reached out. Sarah, the young mother, had been carrying everything on her own, multiple part-time jobs, long nights, no family nearby. Too proud or too ashamed to ask for help, she had been worn down until she simply couldn't keep going. While Sarah recovered, James kept his promise. He visited often, talking quietly with Emily, bringing small comforts and listening when she needed to tell the story again. He also reached out to colleagues, to friends in the neighborhood, and to local charities. Once the story got out, people started to respond. In a matter of days, donations of food and clothes arrived. A few folks volunteered time for cleaning and repairs, and neighbors who had once been strangers became a safety net. When Sarah was well enough to come home, she found the house different, cleaned, stocked with groceries, and patched where it needed fixing. She cried when she saw the help, not just for what had been done, but for the realization that she wasn't alone. Emily's grin that afternoon was the brightest James had seen since that first frightened plea at his car. She hugged her mother, then turned and hugged him, whispering a small, grateful thank you he would carry with him. Life didn't fix itself overnight, but the support made a real difference. Sarah was able to cut back to fewer hours and eventually found steadier work that allowed her to be with Emily more. Neighbors checked in, volunteers stopped by. The little household that had been on the brink found a path forward. Standing outside one evening, watching Emily play while Sarah chatted with people who had once been strangers, James realized the bigger truth. Sometimes the most important work starts with a single small voice brave enough to ask for help. One act of attention, A cop following a child down the street turned into a web of kindness that changed a family's life. If this story moved you, please consider supporting Soulful Stories by liking, sharing, or subscribing. And remember to look out for the quiet needs around you. Small actions add up.